Okay, guys, we are live. Let me just setting up a stream in front of me so that I can see what's going on. Hey, welcome everyone. This is Sachin, Kris, and Amit, and we have a significant week last one, and the market is quite in move. So let's hit it directly, guys. How was your week, Kris?
Okay, guys, we are live. Let me just. It was good for the most part in terms of professional life. I wouldn't necessarily say that in the same in the investing life. I didn't sell anything. I just kind of held on to everything. Dude. One of the things about being a long term investor is you have to be able to ride waves like this. I'm not. I don't think that there are any other positions that I have that are what's the word, like more equivalent or better for me. Like I don't see a lot of value out there in my investing philosophy. Of course, there are some new positions that I'm probably going to take in energy because I do feel like in the next 10 years are going to be pretty good for energy. But that's something, something else altogether. But I think this week was definitely an eye opener. I don't know if the bloodbath is over yet, so who knows?
Hey, Amit, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm down $4,000 this week. I just checked Robinhood, so not too bad. For the live stream we did for earnings went great. A lot of people really liked it, so that was awesome stuff. And yeah, now we just gotta talk about what the heck is going on.
Yeah, I think I'm down as well. I think somewhere
You think you're down?
In very high six figures. I mean, overall, like if I see like equity portfolio down is already in seven figures, so it is what it is. But since private is doing good, so not too much concerned about it. So guys, I think we need to hit the nail right in the starting today. And before we discuss anything else, tell me, man, why Cathy saying not ARC, not the Palantir. Let me just edit this. You guys start.
So the breaking news is Cathy just sold, how many is it, Kris? 10 million shares, like 2 hours ago?
More than 10. I keep hearing conflicting numbers at this point. I think 12, 13. I heard 14 at one point.
5 million from yesterday. That's why.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's a significant amount. I think she's halved her position at this point. It's kind of it's weird that she did that only because her time horizon, as she usually says, is 5 years. So, like your thesis changed like that, But I have heard her say in the past that when there are opportunities out there, she will take the opportunities to go into something that that she feels is more high quality, right? So essentially, she may be thinking, well, you know what, Roku has a better growth proposition than Palantir at this current moment. And maybe that's why she dumped a significant portion of her Palantir position, actually took up a significant position in Roku. The thing is, Roku was down almost 22% on the day on top of what it was down yesterday. I think it's almost down 30, 40% over the last 5 days. So, Roku's not like performing all that well either. It's not like she went into some safety, like she didn't buy Apple or anything, because that's not what she does. But yeah, it's just odd. I don't know if it's like some of her private, some of her analysts that are doing a little bit more deep dives into Palantir, but I can't think that the thesis would change at the drop of a hat to the point where they're eating such a significant loss on their balance sheet right now. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Amit, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be quick. I think that's the confusing part, what you just said at the end, Kris, this idea that our thesis has changed. They just came out and said AI is an $85 trillion marketplace. I don't know many companies other than Palantir that are working with AI at the edge along with machine learning. So like she was buying almost 6 million shares at a cost average of $16 in January. It was like the first 6 days of January, she had already compiled around 6-7 million shares that she bought. So she obviously sold for a loss. The question becomes, why is she selling Palantir for a loss? So your point, Kris, is like she has to have capital to allocate to other positions. It's like, okay, that's fine. But when you do that, you are making a explicit and intrinsic show to the market that you believe this position that is at a 30, 40, 50% loss deserves to be taken at a loss in order to substantiate another position, which means they can't get around the fact that they think Roku and Robinhood and Roblox are better deals than Palantir. Now, they may contextualize it's a better deal right now than Palantir, and that's when it starts getting weird because Palantir is at quite literally DPO prices, a little bit above that. So it's like if you were buying it at 16, and you're selling it at its like quite literally lowest of the last 52 weeks, then it means there might be a narrative thesis change, or it might just be rebalancing. But I think what we're going to explore, there might be a change in the narrative.
Well, here's something interesting I didn't look at till Sachin just put it up right now. Sachin, if you look at it right now, is it true? Is it accurate that 1% of her total portfolio is Palantir right now? Like even after the sales, or is that pre-sale? Do you see what I mean? In ARK, which is her main fund?
So I think what it says here, and as per my understanding, is that this portion is sold. Let me see if there is anything else.
You know about the 1% near the 10 million?
So share traded, what it was a percentage of total ETF. So that
she
means
sold 1% of the ETF, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, she sold 1% of those 10 million shares were 1% of the ETF, and she sold that. Like Chamath did, but she didn't pump Palantir. Nothing like she didn't get the benefit of the pump.
No, so let me share my view on this. So see, I sell my positions at loss when I see there is a deep decline and there is a better option. But I do not sell it and resell it and then again buy it and sell it within the periods of 30 days. I think these decisions I take long before these declines happen. Okay, I just execute when it is. So why I think Cathy is selling, one of the things is that she has somehow mixed her long-term strategy with this short-term trading somehow. I think, and it is overdoing it. Another thing is when she sells a position, sometimes she end up allocating that money in companies which are higher risk at times. Okay, so that means the volatility and the risk profile of fund is changing almost on the daily basis. This is not the mandate people have given her. People wanted her to find these exotic and innovative company, get a good entry point, and stay in this company for long. That's the mantra she formed the ARK Invest. What ARK is doing is not entirely aligned with that, and I can understand also. I mean, like from fund management point of view, if you see one of the biggest metrics a fund has to manage is how much assets are under management. And at the end of the day, fund is paid by how much assets are under management. If your assets are under decline and there is a lot of outflows, by nature, you will be forced to do things that will attract more funds. In this particular case, you need to ensure that you can arrest the decline of our ETFs. So what I'm finding and what I'm thinking that the current actions are more resulted in terms of agency issues rather than any long-term and short-term thinking. And if you remember, like what she said that Palantir can grow as AWS and they can even steal AWS market. Now we are talking about a business that has completely revamped an industry. Now you down 50% of that position. So are you still thinking it is the same thesis? If the thesis have changed, then share why the thesis have changed. What sort of evidence you are seeing that has made it to change. Until and unless it's just a random decision looking for some near-term mentality. And yeah, I mean, personally, I do not endorse, but I mean, I respect Cathy Wood a lot because she shares a lot of wisdom with us in one way or other. Back to you guys.
I respect her, and I did a video about this today saying that I can't think that we can say confidently we're smarter than her and her team. I mean, her team gets hundreds of millions of dollars allocated to research. So they know stuff that we don't know, not because we're not smart, but because they in 24 hours a day, they're researching this stuff. So they have to know something about the market opportunity, the business, the tech, something that initiated them to start buying when it was at $30 a year ago. And now something has happened that have caused them to sell. And I think that is the mystery question. And I wish we could just get some clarification here, because it comes 3 weeks after buying 6 million. It quite literally doesn't make sense. And for those who are saying it's about rebalancing and portfolio management, maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the narrative. Maybe it's just that simple. I even said in my video today, that's probably what's going on. But I said that before she sold another 10 million. So it's like, now you get to the point where it's like, is she liquidating? And I guess I'll pose the question here. What do you think she would do how would you feel if she liquidated her position? How would you feel about Palantir?
Kris, you go first.
To be honest with you, nothing changes for me. Like I've honestly started to lose a little bit of faith in her fund when I saw her buying into Berkeley Lights. Based on all the research that I've done, plus I've seen some of the short reports on it, Berkeley Lights is running on technology that's currently being litigated by another company that I'm invested in, who I know is a founder that helped develop this technology. And so my question is around, well, if your logic is to be invested in this company, are you really doing the proper due diligence needed to stay in a place where you need these constant returns? So like right now, this company Berkeley Lights, I think it's down almost like 80-90% from its market when it IPO'd not too long ago. And not to say that there aren't companies that have also got squashed in the recent macro downtrend, but Berkeley Lights does not seem like to me like a valid company to be invested in. It's not that innovative. It creates a box that essentially, you can do all these tests in. There's a whole thing I'll probably do another video on with you, Sachin, and just discuss. But like I said, some of the moves that she's been making recently do not make that much sense to me. I'm sure that she has a lot of research people like on her side, like doing way more DD. But I think at this point she's getting caught up in the expectations. And what's interesting is her conversation on CNBC, where she was trying to justify her thinking, right? That, we're still innovative and that, but it didn't seem as confident. It sounded someone desperately trying to cling on to a thesis rather than someone who was in the know, which is,
I was going to say that, Rich. I watched her interview yesterday and she sounded scared. Like,
hold on, what's it? Sachin, do you mind changing the window to our faces are up there so Amit doesn't get blocked? There you go. So yeah, because Amit's face was getting blocked.
Yeah, she sounded scared. Like when they asked her, she was just like, I don't want to say the word transitory because I know you don't like that word. But it's like, that's the thesis. Just because you don't say the word doesn't mean that definition goes away. So
yeah,
I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a drop in confidence. It's a drop in confidence. And you know what? I understand. I mean, it's hard to be confident in markets like this, especially when your whole fund is touted towards these speculative growth names that are going to get hammered during a difficult time period right now with rising rates and interest rates going higher and inflation going higher. So,
See, my view is, when you do a long-term research, and I do it for my business. I mean, like my clients come to me and ask, like, what do you think is going to happen in energy in 10, 15, 20, 30 years? Because that's how they want to build this strategy for longer term. So when you are doing a research for longer term, you always build scenarios and you always build milestones. Okay. So for example, if Cathy is saying that we have a certain thesis for Palantir, then she also says that, okay, we want certain milestones Palantirs to achieve. If those milestones are not achieved, then she says this is why we are selling. I mean, you have to come up, and it's not just about just dumping some slides and data dump on retail that this is what we think. You have to come up with the future is not given. Future is what we make out of it as of our actions. So saying that AI will have this much market by that time, that's fair. But what else can happen and what else has to happen so that we can see this number? So this is why, like, the idea of changing thesis and changing trades almost on a daily basis, I don't think that's a right approach. And my understanding is why it is happening, because she's losing overall asset under management. So she is under stress. Okay, so it's a business, it's an agency issues that has infected a lot of fund managers over their career. There is nothing new in it. Okay, see why people buy ARK. I mean, I didn't buy Palantir because ARK has bought it. I mean, my interest in Palantir was since 2014. Okay, and I'm not changing my position because Cathy has changed the position, because I actually never bought any of her theses, and I always maintained that her view on AWS is stealing market. I always kept a different view. See, the key point is why people bought ARK, because ARK demonstrated and illustrated that the traditional funds and traditional indexes are not capturing growth and innovation, which should be part of your portfolio in the decade where disruption is going to be at the level the likes of which you have never seen before. So that is what's the attraction for ARK is. You made a pure product that this is why people should go and buy. But then what happened is that people started buying things and doing things. So with that is like, okay, now she's changing it on a weekly basis. So now if you tell me that Roku is going to change the future, sorry, I don't believe it. Roku is a good business. It can generate a lot of cash. And since I live in Malaysia, I don't even have seen Roku. I don't know what kind of product it is or experience it is. I assume it's very good. I would assume that disrupting,
I have it. It sucks.
disrupting B2B business with enterprise AI is a far better bet than yeah, having a nice. People need to move out of their TV if we need to change the world. We don't want people to spend more time on TV if we if we are looking for a better world. So I mean, yeah, I don't buy Roku. It's no nothing against the company, but. But yeah, I think that is so. If you have a disruption and innovation theme, uh, I have to say I'm sorry, but at this particular time, ARK Invest trades and action doesn't correspond to that. Back to you guys.
What she said on CNBC is the guy asked her, "Hey, do you think Roku could get back to $400 when it was at an all-time high?" And she said, "Yes, and it can get higher." And when she said that, I mean, she kind of had confidence when she said that, but the interviewer looked at her like, what? Like, and first of all, how long will that take? Because if that takes 5 years and you bought it at 320 and it finally gets back to 400 after 5 years, what's your return, right? So it's just like one of the things Jim Cramer said, and we'll talk about Cramer, but he said there have been people in history that have not been able to admit defeat. And for as much as we hate Cramer, there are some moments where he's like, he messes up on PayPal. He recommended it. He publicly admitted he was wrong about that. I don't know if Cathy's ready to ever admit she's wrong on something. Like, if Roku doesn't go anywhere over the next year, or Zoom doesn't go over, like, does she just quadruple down? Or in the next 5 years, if these stocks are flat, is she going to actually say, hey, I was wrong? And you know, what's going to happen as a result of that?
Notice, guys, somebody has mentioned that recently Peter Thiel has made some comment on Palantir stock. I mean, yeah, I haven't seen if anyone.
I'm looking for it right now. I don't see anything.
I don't think
okay,
that's true.
We'll circle back to that. In the meantime, let's cover on the Jim Cramer part. So I agree with you, Amit, on this one entirely. I mean, see, Jim Cramer is not someone which I look forward to. Okay, and there are reasons for that. I think my difference with Jim Cramer started, I think, somewhere in 2017, and the reason was following. I used to work in Schlumberger. And what I felt was Schlumberger went through with a very horrible time, and the CEO was not leading it in the right direction that particular time. That was my view, and this was one of the reasons that I ended up eventually leaving. And you know, the CEO was getting a lot of heat, and I mean, he took positions, and I felt that this guy is young, but he might become first CEO who has to be pushed out of company, which eventually happened. Now, during this height, when there was so much heat for the CEO inside, I saw Jim Cramer praising CEO out of nothing. So that was first time gave me the impression that why this person has to praise this out of no reason. He has never mentioned him in the 7-8 years of watching CNBC I have seen. So that gave me first impression that, see, the world is not that simple. I mean, these guys are collected. He's trying to collect PR. I mean, now when I see the GM, Mary Barra, I mean, who has all the PR, she doesn't have that many EVs, but you see that how the CNBC pumped some of these companies. And so that is where I see that there is a collusion between corporate and mainstream media at times. And see, I have to judge it from action since I'm not an insider there. Now, the way, now, if you look at the Jim Cramer and his own view on Palantir, I mean, sometimes it's black box, sometimes it's a buy at 27, 28, now it's a sell. Now, anybody who's holding Palantir is ape, the CEO is rambling. See, first thing is the guy doesn't have basic decency. This is a company over which several countries have trusted their own security and defense. People are in front line, assuming that the product they have, you have nuclear codes in the organization that are using Palantir. So, you know, having a view on a company just by a view like you do the drama on the Mad Money all the time, I think it is very unprofessional. It doesn't matter what you think of it, how you come across is very important. The second part is that there is
Can I make a point real quick before you continue?
Sure.
One thing is Jim Cramer is a meteor personality. I think it's very important to understand that. The reason we have so many like tweets and pictures of him contradicting himself is because his job is to talk about stocks 24/7. Like, at one point, how do you come up with new content, right? Like, you have to have these egregious takes, these hot takes to get airtime, to get advertising dollars on CNBC. So I do think he is a pawn used by CNBC, but I don't hate him for that. because that's how he makes his living. It's sad that he has this much influence. So I just think people need to be educated that he is a media brand. If he is not giving hot takes on stocks, especially when it's trending to do so, so he's saying ARK sucks, he's pouring oil all over them or whatever he was pouring over them, and then the next day he's praising them. Like, that's just the nature of the media business, I think. But I also think his influence is too much at some point.
Yeah, the other thing I would say about Jim Cramer on this one, this is the guy that, what is your favorite meme? My favorite one is his Lehman Brothers. Like, buy Lehman. While Lehman was literally on fire, he was like, y'all need to buy Lehman. So after that, I don't understand how people can still have credibility. I don't even know who calls into his show and, actually asks him for advice. I mean, at this point, he's contradicted himself. He's been wrong on so many occasions. And I don't know.
See, I remember Jim Cramer's interviews even from the time of .com era, and he was in the midst of I think November '99 and January 2000. He was promoting companies. Yeah, I think most of them didn't survive in next 2 years. Okay, and he was like, this is a new market and all that. So see, this is, I think, one thing investors have to also be very careful, whether it is company or whether it is somebody speaking, including us, is the consistency, that what we say today, what we say tomorrow, and what we say day after, or what we have seen in past, because only then you can start judging the quality of thinking. Okay, and as Amit rightly pointed out, that I think Jim Cramer lacks it.
I mean, there's a reason we all focus on one stock as of now, right? Which is we're going so deep on one thing. This guy has to talk about 17,000 stocks a day. Like, there's no way he's ever going to be able to have a consistent opinion on Palantir or any of the other stocks, right? I think that's just the nature of it.
And and at the end of the day, I think it is at least established with reasonable confidence that the media companies and corporates, I mean, they use each other for certain narrative. We have seen even White House doing it. So forget CNBC. So I think this is pretty much established. So we have to be careful also at times, like how some of these companies are formed. Like, for example, if you see the meme mania about Palantir. I mean, Palantir is not GME or AMC. It's not a boomer business. It's a business that, if successful, can change a lot. I see a lot of people making comments about it. See, you cannot compare Palantir with a company sometimes that has $200,000 per customer revenue. Until and unless you compare it with company that has $3 to $4 million revenue, I mean, it's not in the same peer category all the time. The second thing is, people say the retention rate is just 150%. It's a retention rate. Some companies have 173%. Yes, companies have 173% retention rate over the revenue of 200,000. Having a 50% over a larger revenue is more important, because that company which has 173% over 200K, when their revenue with client will move to 500K, their revenue retention rate could be just 110%. So before you start comparing these numbers, it is very important to understand the context of these things. Okay, Palantir, as they recently shared in their Mythbuster, I mean, it's a proper software company. It's not a data company. Okay, back to you guys.
Yeah, Palantir is not a tool seller. CodeStrap actually did a video not too long ago, and he literally said it. Snowflake is a tool. They'll sell you the tools to try to do data science yourself. Someone who's worked in the software industry, I could tell you data science is hard. All right. It is super hard to do properly. And the other thing is, it's constantly changing, constantly flowing. So you really need a lot of great talent in order to do it right. And that's why the failure rate is so high. 87% of all data science projects internally done by most companies fails. Think about that. That's crazy. That's literally one step below venture funding. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to be tied into a business that's about trying to make data science work. I think the most innovative thing you can do for data science is try to outpace the need for data scientists, where anyone could be a data scientist. You can take someone who's working in an industry, give them a platform, and tomorrow morning they're able to create applications and code that brings value to your organization. And I have that right now in my organization. There is definitely a need for us to move towards a more data-centric model, but we just can't hire data scientists. We've got a bunch of database administrators, but they don't do anything other than just make sure the data gets from one place to another, right? You need people to refine and clean up data and make it and put it into a usable format. And even the few people that we have, you ask them, hey, I need data on this specific thing. They're like, come back in a month. I'm like, dude, a month from now, like whatever decision I need to make, I can't make in a month. I need it now, and that's the tragedy of it. And I think eventually a lot of people are just going to say, you know what, to hell with trying to get data science done at the local level. We need a third party to come in and help us, automate things so that we can just train the next person to do it. Someone on the front line who's actually directly interacting with the products or with customers or with patients, in my case, with hospitals.
Yeah, I think the other thing real quick about Snowflake. So I have an interview coming up with CodeStrap tomorrow, and I explicitly asked him, is Snowflake a threat? And he said, no, it's just it's something that will integrate with Palantir, primarily because Snowflake does like something with data and Palantir does something else with data. And the something else is what you talked about, Chris, the AI ML ops, which has an 87% failure rate. So I literally asked him, I was like, well, why can't Snowflake just do the AI? He was like, it's too hard. He's like, it's just too hard. There's a lot of space for both of them to exist. And they ultimately do different things that can complement each other.
Palantir, by the way, failed a lot to get to a point where it was able to be successful. That's one of the key points that we have to always remember about Palantir. I know a lot of people are saying Palantir is 17 years old. It took them a lot of learning to get to the point where they're actually able to refine a product. Do these companies have the same time frame to fail even half as much to get to a point where you have a usable product? The only company I know right now with the resources, talent that they can bring to bear is Google, right? And I don't know. I don't know if Google is really interested in this space as of right now. So
as someone like who has spent a lot of time working on these AI ML projects, implementing on an enterprise level, I can see that 2 out of 3 projects fail. Okay, by a huge margin. Okay, I have seen companies spending. In the worst case, I have seen a company spend $400 million, and at the end of the day, they have to open an investigation that how this money was even spent. I mean, they were not able to even account proper accountability. So that's the reality. That's what I always say, that companies are now just realizing that euphoria of digital transformation and AI that everyone has sold to their board is not that simple to actually get it done. The second question I think which came is I think it was like the trade which Joe has done. Let me just explain. See, as of today, let's say the Palantir is at 11, and you are thinking you want to buy Palantir at $9, but you don't know whether Palantir will go to $9 or not. But you are thinking if it goes to 9, I will buy, and at that particular point, I don't care even that decline, even if it goes to 6. $9 is my buying price. So in the option strategy, there is something called selling puts. Please remember to study it properly before you even try. So what happens that you take an obligation. That means I am giving a guarantee that I will buy this many share of Palantir at $9 while it is still trading at $11. It's an obligation. That means if it has happened, the counterparty will execute it. However, since you are taking an obligation, counterparty will give you some premium for it, some money for it. That money could be $1. So effectively what happens is if the stock doesn't go to $9, then you keep that money. If the stock goes to $9, you are forced to buy Palantir, but you also keep that money which was originally given. So your effective price for the stock that particular time is $9 minus the premium. If I say that is $1, so you practically bought Palantir at $8. If Palantir goes below $8, you will be in deep red. Okay. But you see, if Palantir, so you need to see the probability point of view that if Palantir doesn't go to 9, that means you neither bought it, you didn't get the premium. So this trade allows you to milk premium at times. That means you make money on the stock you want to buy at a certain price while you are still waiting for it. Having said that, option strategies are highly speculative at time, and you need to understand because a lot of people end up buying an options or selling options without even realizing that what kind of risk they are taking. Wrong option strategies are even more dangerous than exposure to margin. Please be advised on that. Okay,
so did Joe buy a put or he sold puts?
He sold puts.
Okay, so I want to do an example for people online right now, right? So I'm on my Robinhood thing. So he sold covered puts, correct?
Cash covered puts.
Cash covered puts.
Okay, Robinhood just says cover. Okay, so I'm going to pick on January 20th, 2023. That's the expiration date. I'm going to click on buy, and I'm going to click on put.
No. Right there's your mistake. Sell put. You see right there.
Okay. All right, here we go. So now, here we go. Now, let's pick a random one. This is January 2023, so about a year from now. A $25 put. I am buying.
You have to, Amit, look at a strike price that is lower than the current price.
Okay. So let's do a $7 and
I would advise you not to do it. I will explain
I'm not
it tomorrow.
doing it. I'm doing it as an example of like showing. Yeah, I'm not going to do it right now. That's for sure.
Yeah. So
you see the amount that's on the side, it tells you how much premium someone is willing to pay you in order to sell you Palantir at $7.50 on between now and January whatever 23rd of 2023, right? So what happens is the money that you have in your account sits there in a holding pattern that says, okay, you sold one contract. That contract, the strike price is $7.50. That means you need $750, right, for that one contract. And what's going to happen is your broker is going to hold on to that, and they're going to put it on the side, saying that, hey, this has been margined out at this point, right? What ends up happening is between now and January 23rd, that person can sell you those shares at $7.50. Right now, Palantir is trading at 11. So if they execute early, that's stupid. They would literally be losing the premium that they paid. Plus they would be selling it to you for super cheap, which would never happen. It's literally like an impossible thing to happen. It can happen, but it's impossible. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say impossible. There are events where stupidity does happen and things can get executed, but 99.9% of chances that won't ever happen, where things will get executed way before the expiration. Now, let's say by 2023, the price of Palantir goes down to $2. Guess what? That person can exercise that and literally take your $750, right, that you're obligated to buy it at $720, right? And now you're stuck holding Palantir shares that are currently worth $200. So that means that you lost $500 something, minus the premium that you might have got from the original sale.
What's the premium on this one right here? Buy, put. You guys
no, right? Sell, put. You should see it on your thing. You should see it on there.
No, you don't see my
guys,
screen right now.
Let me show you an example. Then I think that will be easier to explain it that way. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, you share yours.
Okay, guys, the example I'm about to share it's a hypothetical example. Okay, I don't want any of you to repeat this trade. Please be advised.
Sachin, don't worry, no one's gonna do it. And if they
this is not financial advice.
If they do, it's their problem. Like, we are doing this for obvious education.
Okay, so for example, I'm looking at the Palantir option chain here. Let me know, guys, if you can see my screen.
Yeah,
we can see it.
Okay, so I'm saying that I want to buy Palantir. Okay, I think that the declines are quite steep, and I say I believe that Palantir can go. Let me just put all the strikes up here. Okay, and I want to buy Palantir preferably at 9. Okay, and if you see at this particular point, the option chain on this side, it is call and it is put. What is call? Call means that we are expecting. I mean, it's for forward-looking prices. Like it's a bull. I mean, the price is expected to go high, then the calls will increase. Put is pretty much like an insurance up here. Okay, so when you see this color, it could be different in different apps. It is pretty much telling that this is in the money. In the money means that the option is at a strike price where it can be executed, and the intrinsic value is in the option. So I'm going to 9, and I say that I want to sell, and I want to sell a single position. Okay, I mean, you can do this with beer spreads also. We can cover that sometime later. So that means if I sell, okay, so guys, I just need to have a sense. I don't sell 10 contracts. I sell slightly larger. So it is telling that if I take this obligation, I will get 30 cents.
30 cents per what?
Per share.
And how many shares? So 1,000 contracts means 100 shares, right? per contract.
100 shares per contract.
So
100 share
100,000
per
times. So you would get 31,000.
Okay, so let me take 10 contracts for the exercise for the time being. So now I'm talking about 1,000 shares. So I am putting, okay, I'm putting $9 for 1,000 share. That means I am putting $9,000 as collateral now. That's my obligation.
Right.
Okay, if it gets to that price, I will get it. And since I'm getting premium, technically I'm putting like $8,700. 30 cents is premium that is coming from it. Now, if it doesn't happen, that means I will get this 30 cent over this $8.7, which is around roughly like 6%.
Right.
So in a month, I can either make 6% on premium, or I end up buying Palantir at 8.7.
So you have to
Okay,
just bet that the price doesn't go below so that it doesn't have to get exercised.
Yeah, sorry, I mean, it's not showing that dialog which I opened up here. Let me just see, because I kind of opened it and it opened another pop-up window.
This is good stuff. I think people are interested in this stuff because I'm new to options as well. And I think a lot of people don't know that much about options and the strategies. It's interesting to at least learn about it.
No, I mean, it is, it can be interesting at times, but I always stay away. Guys, don't look at my buying power or it's a paper account. Okay, I just try to test it a strategy sometime. Okay, but it is telling you. So what it is telling you, the break-even price for me is 8.69. That means if Palantir is above that price, I mean, I will pretty much make some money. Okay, the maximum profit I can make is $310. And the maximum loss if Palantir stock goes to zero is 8,690. Okay, so it's a probability trade. Probability trade is one which has low premium or low output, but it has a very high probability of success. Okay, so if you do it consistently over the time in a very disciplined manner, you still end up making reasonable money. But guys, options requires certain skill sets. I mean, it's not about just going YOLOing about it. Okay, so we are showing it that what Joe has done. So what Joe has done, that okay, it might go to 9, it doesn't go, but why don't I collect some money? And if it goes to 9, I won't mind buying this many shares at such a low price.
So Joe thinks it's extremely cheap. I think that's what he said on Twitter, right?
Yeah. And another thing is that option prices are proportional to the increase in implied volatility. Okay, and the volatility increase when there is more turmoil in the market. So option premiums are very good. I mean, you see, if you put $8,700 in a 5 week or 4 weeks from down the line, if the stock doesn't go, you are making 6% in a month. If you do it on a weekly basis, that means you can scalp as much as 2 to 3% weekly in the right times. I mean, this is how I built my position in Palantir. I mean, early last year.
All right, close that. I'm getting scared. Someone's going to execute something really bad, and then we're going to end up getting a call from the SEC.
Yeah. Don't do this. Dollar cost average like normal people.
That's right.
You already said you can lose as much as $8,700 if you try to execute that trade. I mean, that's the real risk. So that's what I say. Like, people need to understand like what's going on this part. Now, option selling is inherently very risky strategy because people get so much focused on getting premium and forget how much exposure it can bring to them. So it needs proper planning. I mean, I do these things and never share much about it because I know that people can really get overboard. People are not interested in learning options. They just want to understand what trade you have done. And that's not what we guys do.
Yeah. All right. What's the next topic?
So the next topic we have is, we have covered. So earnings. I think that's what do you think overall now, especially the market sell-off that it has followed?
I think at this point, if you do not execute like perfect, as in you need pristine growth, you need literally everything to fall in place 100%, you're going to get sold out. Like, there are companies right now that had really good quarters. They got murdered, and it's
back to 165 and it got to 240 on good earnings. Like, it's wild.
Yeah, right now is not the market that you can have even a little bit of leeway, because even a little bit of caution or downside, even a talk of possible supply chain issues, will see your stock get mutilated. I mean, and the funny thing is, a lot of these CEOs, they have to say there is inherent risk. I think a lot of people interpret them saying, hey, we have inherent risk as it's definitely going to happen. Sell, sell, sell. And it's like, no, it just means that there are some headwinds coming out the way. Like, who could have predicted that Putin start jumping up and down in the middle of January? No one, right? But that's something that companies have to disclose. Like, hey, we have interest in Ukraine, right? Like, and usually they do that in their filings, and now we're starting to see a lot of those things start to come up. So I think right now we've got a lot of supply chain issues. I think a lot of inflationary pressures all over the place. I still think the rest of the year I would say the first 2 quarters are definitely the most cautious quarters that I'm going to be, where I'm probably not going to do very much trading. It's literally just DCAing. I'm not changing my plan at all. But I think third and fourth quarter, we should see some rise back up again. I think as the economy starts to open up again, maybe some of the supply chain issues start to get a little bit more resolved. We should see robust growth. And if growth starts to come back, and maybe the Fed, now one of the things that the Fed can kind of like sit back a little bit and say, well, you know what, the economy is starting to wobble. If we raise interest rates right now, we may not be able to save the economy. We may actually cause more damage. So I think right now, whatever forces that the Fed had, or the ideas that they had that we were going to do like these sudden rate rises, they're probably thinking twice about it. What do you guys think?
So I have 3 reflections on that. The first part on the Fed rate rising. Since Fed has created so much chaos around it, they have to raise some rates. But what they will do, they will spread it over and they will make like a miniature. So I would expect, like, before midterm, I don't expect very high rate rise. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's how I read the situation. Okay. The second thing is on the earnings. I think the one thing is very clear, that what Palantir is trying to do is ambitious. So the execution risk is high. Okay. And it can only be communicated by more and more success from their customers. So more customers are coming, and more customers in a given industry are coming, and that is yet to be seen. Some customers have come forward and they have shared their experience with Palantir and how it is helping. That's very good. But we have to see it at a very large scale. Okay. Another thing is Palantir has invested some money in SPAC, and they are doing some foundry for builders. So some of these companies actually have to go and become a kind of a beacon of growth and success. That will also establish that yes, Palantir actually played a critical part in some of these growth companies. The last part is, I think this is, I'm believing more and more now. See, there was an article which, we discussed earlier as well, that some of the progressive Democrats, they fought election by saying that we will remove Palantir from local police use. So the fact is, like, for example, we know people like George Soros, who are very close to some of the politicians, and they actually invest money to oppose software at times and to say bad things about time. See, these people have influence, and they likes to play in shadows. So telling ourselves that these people are not doing anything to influence, whatever they can do to damage the company, I think it's a fool's errand. I believe these people are doing whatever it can take, working in shadows, to actually damage company, to influence projects, or to influence people who are buying or selling, especially in the government domain. My understanding sitting on the other part of world is, and I'm not Democratic or I'm not Republican, I'm not even American, I think this is definitely happening. Influence tactics are on display, and this is one of the things that is dragging the company down, and has one of the big thing for that we have discussed several times is that, see, in Silicon Valley tech sector, you are not Democrats most of the time, the leadership. You are like 100% extreme left liberal Democrats kind of thing. So now some of the person who are like the beacon in Silicon Valley, and Peter Thiel was and still is one of the biggest person, has to come from Silicon Valley, has gone and supported Trump openly. Okay, so all these technocrats who are preaching free speech, they don't like it. Their idea is that the free speech you speak is the what one print for you. Okay, so in Silicon Valley and in a lot of circles, Peter Thiel is untouchable. We cannot touch him anymore. Okay, at the end of the day, so what is happening is that these stigma and these things will stay for the timing. The only thing that can remove it is the success of execution. Because at the end of the day, if the company is executing well, everyone wants to make money. That time, everyone likes principle, but they like money more. Okay, and for big techs it's different because they want to kill a company in infancy, because if it can grow and compete them in future. Okay, that is how big tech has done. I mean, if you see what Facebook has done, they literally threatened Instagram for a buyout. I mean, Microsoft is a good example. We saw what kind of tactics Apple has done. So this is something they have done for last 20-30 years, so they will eventually do it. Okay, now it's more important in this world that it is done both in terms of narrative as well as on the hidden tactics and in the background. And this time, corporate, politicians, media, I mean, they do it together. So Palantir has headwinds in that regard, and they have to face it. I mean, there is no other way. Okay, back to you guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think right now there's a layer of stink that's built around Palantir because of Peter Thiel's involvement. And it's the same reason why so many of these companies were heavily scrutinizing Facebook too. I mean, to be honest, Facebook deserved a lot of that scrutiny for the way that they operated. But when I looked at the congressional hearings, they were literally like calling Zuckerberg and asking about Peter Thiel and Palantir's involvement in Facebook Matters. And Zuck was like, wait, what? Like, you think we're run by Palantir? It's like, no, like we're not.
We should show that video actually.
Yeah, actually that would be really helpful for people to see, because it goes to show you how the current administration is probably viewing Palantir, right? And maybe that's one of the reasons why we didn't see nearly the amount of revenue growth, and it kind of tempered down. So if you look at Q1 2021, a lot of those contracts were probably done under the past administration that are kind of like rolling off right now. And now, the new contracts that could have been signed in 2021 didn't get signed because, you have legislators at the top saying, hey, this is not a priority, or, hey, don't look at Palantir, look at somebody else instead. I don't know if you guys have that video, but I think it's worth watching for a couple of minutes.
Do you guys have a link?
I just sent it in the group chat. It's only it's only the first 30 seconds or something of it.
Yeah.
You can share it.
You send it in the private? You send it in the private chat or
in the Twitter?
Okay, let me pick it from there.
Yeah,
okay. Guys, continue and let me open it in the meantime.
Yeah.
This was in 2017 or 2018, and the hearing was about election interference and Facebook's role in election interference. And one of the primary things was that they brought up was Cambridge Analytica. The senator who brought it up kind of snidely called it Stanford Analytica, because apparently, everyone in Stanford is some kind of secret right-wing libertarian who's trying to bring down America, supposedly. But right now there's a few. I don't know if you guys know this. In San Francisco, there was a vote to recall 3 people in their Department of Education, and some of the people that supported it were Democrats, but they're like, oh, these rich Palantirian billionaires are what do you call it? Are fascists, and that's why these people, like, dude, almost 70 to 80% of San Francisco's population voted against these people because of the hyper progressive policies that they were trying to push forward. It's just one of those things. Go ahead, play it. I think this is going to be interesting. I don't think I can hear anything. Can you guys? There you go.
Can you hear, guys?
No.
Guys, sorry, I don't know how to put the video.
Let me share my screen and see if I could do it.
Sure.
Let me do it real quick. So let me open up the link. Okay, share screen. We're gonna do window, Chrome tab, neurotic, share. You guys can see it?
No.
Yeah,
there we go. I think I see it now. Yeah.
You see it? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Zuckerberg. Do you know who Palantir is?
I do.
Some people have referred to them as Stanford Analytica. Do you agree?
Senator, I have not heard that.
Okay.
He was just like, what the fuck? It's like, no.
It's like, dude, ask me about Facebook. I'm the CEO of Facebook. Why are you asking me about Palantir? You know, it's
one of the things about this call. I watched this whole thing a couple years ago. This was the easiest thing he's ever had to do. I mean, these questions were so easy towards him.
Do you think Palantir taught Cambridge Analytica, as press reports are saying, how to do these tactics?
Senator, I don't know.
Do you think that Palantir has ever scraped data from Facebook?
Senator, I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Do you think that during the 2016 campaign, as Cambridge Analytica was providing support to the Trump campaign under Project Alamo, were there any Facebook people involved in that sharing of technique and information?
Senator, we provided support to the Trump campaign similar to what we provide to any advertiser or campaign who asks for it.
So that was a yes. Is that a yes?
Senator, can you repeat the specific question? I just want to make sure I get specifically what you're asking.
During the 2016 campaign, Cambridge Analytica worked with the Trump campaign to refine tactics, and were Facebook employees involved in that?
Senator, I don't know that our employees were involved with.
I think that's it, right?
There was more, but essentially you get the gist of it. You can see the hostility that they have indirectly towards Palantir, even though Palantir is not on the stand, right? So right now, I would say this if I was Alex Carr, I'm telling you, I have always been the advocate, split Gotham off, screw the government revenue portion, focus on commercial, be like, look, we don't give a crap about any of this stuff anymore. The revenue will, trust me, in 5 years, 10 years, when Foundry is 10 times as big as the government, that puny government revenue is not going to matter. Being involved so heavily with the government comes with so many inherent risks, so many, literally, it's all politics. You can't even be neutral in the way you do things. Like right now, Palantir signed like a minor contract with ICE, and all of a sudden, Palantir is helping target immigrant children around the world. You know, it's like, dude, come on. I understand the more, you know, like CARP trying to be like, oh, we want to protect Western democracies and everything else. But dude, you can only do that, honestly, as a private company. I think right now, the best thing to do, split Gotham off, turn that into a private company, and move Fallon and use whatever remains.
Yeah, but if they did that, that would gut their numbers during the next earnings. Like, I don't even see that as a possibility.
Who cares? It wouldn't drag down the numbers, because then your growth would be 100%. There you go. You're the new snowflake, right? You don't have that giant government anchor holding you back. Yeah, sure. I mean, in the short term, you see value compression, but guess what? There have been times where by splitting the company, you generate more value because you don't have the portion that's dragging you down. I mean, look at IBM right now with their Kyndryl division, right? They took their division that's more legacy, split that off, kept the one that's growing really fast with Red Hat, and their valuation is a lot better now, right? Because now you're a high margin SaaS business that caters to commercial clients. You don't have the stink of working with governments anymore. You don't have the lumpiness of government revenue anymore. You don't have to deal with hearings on nonsense like this. You don't have to deal with the extended sales cycles of dealing with government related things. I personally hate the government contracting business. I would never get in business with the government. There are certain vendors who've literally spent years and years, maybe even decades, cultivating relationships on the Hill in order to get these lofty contracts. But dude, it's the US government right now, any democracy right now, you're going to have a tough time dealing with the bureaucratic nature of how everything is. So I would say right now, and this is why a lot of companies don't want to work with the government. Why doesn't Google work with the government? Why doesn't Microsoft work with the government? Why doesn't Amazon work with the government more? They literally just said, you know what? You can keep your money. We don't want to work with you. Sometimes that counterparty risk is well worth it to not have to deal with. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but me, I don't give a crap about the government revenue. I just say, cast that shit to the side.
So, see, I have talked about Palantir more than 100 people, even before I invested in Palantir. And, you know, I always hear three things. That you talk to somebody and they say, dude, isn't this a company that spies on everyone? That is first. And then you say, no, it's not like that. But you know that guy, I mean, he's like a right arm, right wing weirdo. I said, who? I said, the Peter Thiel. They said, why do you think it like that? Oh, because he supported Trump. Now, these 3 bullets and these 3 statements I have heard for over 90 people. Now, when you ask further, then these people are blank because they don't know what the company does and who is Peter Thiel and why he supported Trump. Okay. So when you suddenly see that people have opinion about these things, but they do not have any background, it actually tells me that there is a focused and concentrated effort to spread the FUD about the company. And you can test it next time when you talk. So a lot of people come and they say, "Oh yeah, I mean it's doing this, it's doing that." So what it is doing? I mean, tell me, man. I mean, let's talk it in detail. Okay, if this company is helping government, so what do you want? I mean, like for example, I was seeing this statement from Eric, ex-CEO of Google, and he was saying that government is not doing enough in terms of 5G and they are losing against China. Man, what were you doing when you were CEO? You were not working with government. You were working with universities where the data and the technology was leaked to adversary countries. So why you are now coming and complaining about it? What do you think will happen that if you don't help government and the other countries keep getting all the effort and all the technology from their own country plus from your own your company and what to work against US government? What do you think will happen? Okay, so it is true. It is I mean, it is given at this particular point that what we see the criticism of company in the mainstream media, there is almost 10 to 20 times more effort has been put in the shadows to spread more FUD about this company. We have seen the example of Rosker, but I have seen example on several of the specs. People go, oh, this is not a good company. And why it's not a good company? Oh, because it works with New York police. Seriously? I mean, this is how we are going to judge. If you have issues with the police system, I mean, that means you need federal institution to correct the institution. Okay? I mean, what do you think? I mean, are you going to cancel everything in your life that is going around it? Okay. So, and you know, this is a very popular narrative at this particular point. Or they steal the data. Okay, if they have stolen the data, why there is no DOJ investigation on them? Why they are not sitting in front? Why Alex Karp was not sitting next to Mark Zuckerberg in that Senate discussion? Because if they wanted to ask question about Palantir, they needed the Palantir CEO sitting there. No? Why they didn't have because there was there was no evidence to implicate him. There is literally Palantir CEO has never went to Senate if he has done all those things. So this is all BS. I mean, in all opinion, and you know, people can do whatever they want to do in terms of their political line, but you have to be very concerned when the company is so. Palantir is not a social media company. If tomorrow Facebook goes down, yeah, people will be hurted, but yeah, world will still go on. Now, if Palantir gets things wrong, I mean, you can eventually end up in a war and in a diplomatic situation, guys. It's a high impact scenario. So before somebody starts opening their mouth about the company is doing this and that, please try to do some study about it. I mean, there are a lot of things bad about Palantir, and we can talk about that. Okay, we can talk about like they have not invested enough in the sales force when it was needed. They actually had a view that the product will sell on itself. They actually spent more time on product than the go-to-market channel, and this is what Alex has discussed in the recent call as well, that they need to still figure it out how to sell the thinner version of the product and to reach the people so that we can lower the entry barriers. These are the things Palantir has to be criticized because these are right elements for, and this is where we want to see them doing more work. Okay, but I mean, for things they have not done and they are not liable just because of a political narrative, I think it's embarrassing. And anybody who's doing it, okay, I find it it's below our level.
That Chamath meme is hilarious. Yeah, actually, Chris, I get your point. I think Palantir, though, they want to support the government. Like, that's the issue. They want to be that mission-led company for good or for worse, which I think transitions us into the shareholder letter and the German video that I still haven't watched yet. I have to watch Jay's dubbed version because I don't feel like staring at the subtitles. So, Sachin, you did a recap on the video. And Chris, I don't know if you watched. You want to give us any thoughts on?
I want to address that comment that's right there. The global war over AI is why Palantir will always be in government. I don't think so. First of all, involvement with the government probably slows down your progression. Yeah, some of that financing for the last 15, 17 years was probably good, but I think you got the technology. You got what you needed out of the government. You know, they paid for you to develop that that product. Now you have a fully refined product. Get out of it, you know? And Edge AI has parts of Project Maven probably. And see, that was the other thing. Think about it. Google, how much money did they leave on the table and leave? Palantir has also lost talent because of their involvement with the government. I think right now the idealism is coming from Peter Thiel and Alex Karp rather than the employees. I think some of the employees are probably like, man, I don't want to be affiliated with this. I mean, I do understand the need, and I applaud every Palantirian, every Hobbit, whatever they want to call themselves, for working with the government to try to make us safer, make us all this other stuff. But that's me as an American saying that. Me as a shareholder, I put on a different hat and I say, look, there is a value proposition to being not affiliated with the government, not having to deal with the nonsense of being affiliated with certain parts of that. That's all I'm saying. As an American, Palantir, thank you. Thank you for protecting Western ideals. Maybe you can do it as a private company with a different like business model, right? Where you are a dedicated government contractor, where you're actually developing software for the government, right? But I think that has to be split off. If they don't split it off, I think that's going to drag their commercial to a point where it's going to take a much, much longer period for Palantir to realize its true value. And I'm probably wrong about that. I'll be honest. There's part of me that's really like conflicted in even saying that, right? But at the end of the day, whenever I look at this, I knew the minute that the Democrats got in power, I was like, this is bad for Palantir. Literally, I was just like, the first thing I said to myself, I was like, man, do I really want to invest in Palantir? Because now I know these Democrats who have hatchets out for Trump and for Thiel, who supported Trump, they're going to come after this company. And it's the same thing that's going to happen when Republicans get power in the midterms if they get control again. You think the Republicans are not going to go after Google and Facebook and all these other companies that have been silencing their conservative, like what do you call it? Yeah, you know, Twitter. You think legislation is not going to come? Every Republican right now who gets elected, they're going to be chomping at the bit to regulate big tech. So that kind of stuff, I'm not a big fan of. Where literally you have to be worried as a person as a shareholder because of what your company does in relation with like some of the policies that deal with political issues. I would rather invest in a company that's very neutral. I've picked Palantir because I believe in its technology and I think they can overcome a lot of these hurdles, but I don't know. Sorry.
See, the way I look at it,
I ranted
a little. The way I look at it is, no worries, man. I mean, that's exactly why we are here. See, the one of the reason they have this founder share, because they knew that this debate will eventually come to split the business at some point of time. So given that the founder shares are with the selected founders who have very clear view that they are going to work with commercial. So even if it makes a lot of sense, I think probably it will not happen. So this is something that will drag stock down, and it will attract a lot of how do I say, like stigma around it. But I think that is something you might have to live with. I think the most important part is and this is probably like why I invested in Palantir, is that in my view, the promise of Palantir is that they can do things almost multiple times better than rest of the companies can do together. So that is something they have to focus. See, look at the guys, like for example, what happened to the German companies during Nazi occupation? Okay, a lot of time we see that companies like Mercedes, I mean, we claim them. I mean, like people say that they were with Hitler, and these companies keep claiming that we were there because we didn't have a choice of there. Okay, so the question is that do you want a government that forces companies to work with them, or do you want companies that eventually voluntarily to work with government to build better society? Now, what has happened that things should not be this complicated, but Silicon Valley has taken a route where it says that working with government is evil. And you know why it is popular nowadays? I mean, if anybody has any assumption or thoughts about it, that everyone in Silicon Valley in these big companies had not even a single employee is infiltrated to spread thinking and propaganda from US adversaries, guys, this is fool's errand. When you see there is a company that can even control the narrative of mass public of course, I mean, adversaries will implant their people into certain position, especially a vibrant economy like US, which is accept a lot of migrants. And of course, and at the end of the day, some of these philosophies in these companies are corrupted. We like it, we don't like it. And but why it happened? Because see, before the advent of Silicon Valley, like if you see the companies like IBM, okay, or if you see the companies like EMC, how they started cutting edge technology while working with government grants and with government defense and NASA. This is how it used to happen. And over the time, these companies actually figured it out how to productize or commoditize these technology for a lower cost base for a mass public. This is how radio started. This is how Wi-Fi started. A lot of technologies that we talk about it. I mean, nobody was building semiconductors and microchip, and especially the most famous 4004. It was done for the government purpose first. Okay, this is why mainframe computers were done, and eventually the technology was miniaturized for everyone else as well. Now, when the Silicon Valley started, they started companies that was not working with government. They started with a very different idea. Okay, and a lot of these companies were looked down by the traditional companies. I mean, IBM used to look down on Microsoft. IBM used to look down on Apple because we work with government. These are just some new guys, hippie guys coming and building something. So there was always this culture in Silicon Valley that over the time has been harnessed to work against the government. Okay, and somehow there is a view that they are the only one in the world who have solution for all kind of social problems. And if you don't agree with them, then you are a right wing, you are an extremist, you are a fascist. I mean, somebody has to call them back. Okay, because it's actually at the end of the day is going to hurt global economy. And Palantir has taken the mission. Is it easier mission? No. Is it going to hurt them? Yes. Is it going to hurt as an investor for a long time? Probably yes. But it is. I mean, if you are in Palantir, that means you are in Palantir along with this mission. So whatever comes with it, good or bad, you have to take it.
I think it's also simple. Like when we get out of inflation, the macroeconomy changes and they start scaling more. I don't think people are going to care. And this is a question I've asked a lot of people that came on my channel. I'm like, I even asked CodeStrap this yesterday. I was like, are Palantir the bad guys? And he said exactly what Sachin said. He was like, no. He's like, could you imagine Palantir being in China and they were working this type of technology? He was like, it's not a game. He's like, if we didn't have, he gave a good example. He's like, imagine tomorrow China invades Taiwan. Like, just imagine. And it's not that far-fetched to imagine it. Like, just say they did. All the supply chains and logistics in China that flow into U.S. companies are shut down tomorrow because the United States could not keep that relationship afloat. He's like, how would the world change their? How would someone who needs an iPhone charger off Amazon be able to order it if Amazon doesn't have any iPhone chargers because they're not importing from China? Like, when it affects your daily life, that's when a company like Palantir, that's behind the scenes, that's seen as this evil company, starts to become really relevant. Because then you're like, man, I don't give a shit who they support for president. Put their software in so I can get my iPhone charger in 2 days. And so I think once they start scaling at that exponential level inflection point and supply chain issues and inflation issues go away, I do think this doesn't become the biggest issue in the world. Like, I don't know. I think the government stuff gets swept under the rug. But Chris, you have a good point. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just
I have, like, for me, I think what it is, and I don't want to become that Palantir echo chamber club, right? Where all we do is say Palantir is the best company in the world. Palantir is going to grow no matter what. Palantir is great. You have to always keep in mind that there are bearish aspects to this company and things that are going to be headwinds. You know, I think right now, the fact that I'm still in Palantir to the point that I am, right, means that I am bullish. But at the same time, I'm very cognizant of the execution risks and the political risk that Palantir has. Now, does that mean that I'm detracted from investing in Palantir? No, of course not. I love Palantir. I think it's a great company. I think the technology is phenomenal. The only thing that happens to me is my thesis over the long run is that, hey, you know what, Chris? This company may not hit $1 trillion. It may hit 500 billion, you know? So that's where everyone is going to have to do a little bit of soul searching and saying to themselves, hey, you know what? I see some of the things that people are saying. How does that work? And here's the thing. I'm not saying that any of these things are right. Okay. I think 99.9% of everything that's thrown at Palantir in a negative light is complete bullshit. All right. Complete bullshit. The Ross Gerbers of the world, all these people right now, you just type in Peter Thiel Palantir on Twitter and you'll see all these people just constantly right wing this, blah, blah, blah. I think they're all wrong, completely all wrong. But at the same time, I have to keep that in mind in my investment. Bro, he's bringing it up to you.
That's a good, no, but this is a good point. Obama hired them when they launched Operation Fallen Soldier when a undocumented immigrant killed an ICE agent. So like,
yeah.
So I mean, yeah, like that's also why the Teal getting into politics to get Palantir more business, that was kind of weird to me as well, because the one thing is that Democrats and Republicans are supposed to agree on defense.
Yeah.
Now, Palantir, I guess, is political because of the Teal Trump thing, which means maybe they would pick another defense contractor that's not as explicitly Trumpian. That could make sense. But if they both agree in defense and Palantir has the best defense software, I don't see how any Democrat could stop their software from being implemented. That's where the disconnect happens to me, if they truly have the best software, which is why Obama.
So my view is like, see, if you see some of the French politics, I think in both parties now, a lot of this French politics gets funding from a lot of French thinkers as well. Like, for example, I mean, progressives will get a lot of funding and support from people like George Soros. And George Soros has this habit of interfering in several democracies around the world. It's right or wrong, I don't know. I mean, personally, if somebody is interfering from outside in Indian politics, I would find it offensive for me. Okay. So same thing is up here. Like these people, I mean, like if you see the central leadership, but that over the longer term, I think they had a very common vision, at least in some part, like you guys said, at least in terms of defense. But what we are seeing that both parties are giving ground to these French politicians, and that is what is creating more uncertainty. I mean, in US, especially for someone like me who's looking at from outside, we want certainty. I mean, like why people want to invest money, because you know that there is going to be at least a common decorum going on in a particular country. And what is happening that these people are actually taking more and more center stage. And to be fair, most of them are very incompetent. And it's just a pure sheer luck that because they can speak loud and that they got their positions. Now, thing is not, they are not there. They don't have a long-term strategy about country. They don't have long-term philosophy. So their philosophy is what whoever gives them campaign money. That's pretty much how I read the situation. So if you give them a campaign money and you say, okay, you need to speak against Israel, they speak against Israel. Okay, this is pretty strange. I mean, like I was surprised. Like US has been a strongest ally for Israel for a long time. I mean, do I endorse everything Israel does? No, but I mean, from a diplomatic point of view, I see like politicians taking line sometime, which is very different from their party and the US foreign policy. Why they do it? Because see, these people were never integrated and they don't want to integrate themselves into the doctrine, okay, over which some of these countries have established these vibrant democracies. They are there.
And that's why I want to point out that that comment that was just there with President Obama and Biden before, Obama was a technocrat. Okay, Obama did not let party lines dictate how he was going to operate. When Obama made a decision, he made it for the betterment of the country. All right, I can tell you right now, that's one of the reasons I voted for him twice. All right, I lean towards a Republican side, but at the same time, I'll tell you right now, I voted for Obama twice. I thought Obama was a great president, right? But at the same time, politics from Obama's time has moved way out into the fringes, right? Right now, there is much larger presence of progressives that want to even consider defunding the police. Think about that, So, like I said, I'm just trying to be a realist in this. And I'm just trying to say that right now you have a lot of crazies on both sides, and the progressives right now have it out for Palantir, and that may end up being some headwinds. And you can see it. You can see right there on the on the Senate floor where people are asking Palantir and Peter Thiel questions to Facebook, and like I said, the other thing is also the involvement of Peter Thiel in getting Donald Trump elected. A lot of Democrats got soured by that, and basically right now there's still a significant amount of hatred towards Trump, and Peter Thiel is leaning into it. Peter Thiel is saying, I'm going to support I'm going to support Trump supporters, and I still have a Trump agenda. So what better way to hurt Peter Thiel than to hurt the company Peter Thiel has a massive affiliation with?
See, there's another thing. Yeah, sorry, you go first. Okay, so there is another thing I think people need to remember, that at this particular time it is hurting, but this is exactly like you saw, like how the mass population sentiment is changing. They really want right politics and they really want right topics to be discussed. There is a point beyond which people will just say, oh, enough is enough, man. We cannot have this drama go in, go out. I mean, people have been kept hostage almost in their homes for 2 years now. So people will start speaking about it. The problem what happens is like in the early part, when you promote this kind of fringe ideas, which are hurting Palantir, is that if somebody speaks against it, people immediately say, oh, you are this, you are that. And people kind of stay back because nobody wants to be painted a picture which is dark. But now what is happening that people are saying, at least, I mean, I can say about myself, that people are saying enough is enough. Think whatever you want to think of. But I think this topic is important to me. I really, this is my position on it. And I mean, I trust, U.S. democracy in that part, that this is exactly what's going to happen. People will say, okay, yes, he supported Trump. But at the end of the day, I mean, is there a law that says that Trump cannot be supported? Okay, do I support Trump? No, I don't support Trump. But I mean, we see that's the democracy and that's the freedom of speech. If you think that Trump is a danger, why don't you bring a bill in the Senate and say that Trump should not ever contest politics again? I mean, like for president. I mean, if that's the reality, you cannot just make opinion into a law. Law is law. Opinion is opinion. Okay, so
something interesting just got posted, by the way. Thiel sold half of his position in Palantir.
Yeah, no, that was, but it's inaccurate. That's reporting from, he last reported February 2021.
Oh, right? Gotcha.
So
gotcha.
All of that selling was the options, all the same stuff. The same thing with Alex.
Gotcha.
One of the comments I saw in the chat, I think from Omar, he said, guys, this conversation is way too off topic. Talk about the company, not the political implications. He said, no options, not cancel culture. Look, this is what you get when you talk about the company. I mean, we're not going to just say earnings was great. Earnings, like, you have to talk about why the market is not reacting to what, outside of an earnings per share miss by 0.02 cents, was pretty phenomenal. I think we can all agree to. And also why there is this negative connotation with the company. This is a subject that will be discussed over the lifetime of this company. And Thiel in particular, Bloomberg has written a couple of articles that are like, I don't know if they're hit pieces, but they're major publications they put out this week about Thiel leaving Facebook in order to support a Trumpian America, make America MAGA agenda. So it's like, and you can't get away from the fact that Thiel is tied to Palantir. So cancel culture comes up, you know, the idea of Democrats versus Republicans, midterms election, this stuff is tied to Palantir. It's what makes Palantir such an interesting company to analyze, but it also makes Palantir a harder company to hold because this is not what Google has to worry about. Sundar Pichai is not going to come out tomorrow and say, make America great again, right?
You never know. Who knows?
It's difficult, though, because Karp, and I actually made a video on this. I didn't release it this week yet because of everything going on, but Karp, there's a video. Have you guys seen this video yet? Of Karp, it's from 2015, like literally saying Donald Trump is like the most horrible human being.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, that's not. They don't show it to anyone. I mean, nope. Bloomberg doesn't show it to anyone, and they don't talk. I mean, the Karp was literally mocking Trump in that video, and he never expected. And one thing people also forget, and that when Donald Trump actually invited all the big tech CEOs to discuss. He also invited he also invited Alex Karp there. I mean, Palantir is a much smaller company compared to a lot of big techs out there. But strategically, I mean, the government and the administration thought that this company is strategically important. Okay, and guys, anyone who is investor in Palantir, you need to understand Palantir is intertwined with politics. So if you want to understand why Palantir sucks at time, yeah, politics is one of the reasons. Okay. If you can't deal with it, you know what you need to do then.
Daniel Stocks just said, did the cursing hurt chances for a Disney contract? did Karp saying the F word they mean Disney will never use Foundry? That's hilarious. It's probably true, right? Like, even though I don't know if Disney was ever going to use them to be. But we've dug up a lot of screenshots of companies that have not been disclosed that are using Foundry. So it's like... Yeah. I think this thing is going to hit an inflection point at what point. But the reason our sentiment, our attitude is also kind of like sad right now as well, is because the entire market is down. Like when the market is down, it's all gloomy. But if Palantir if Palantir rallied $16 versus $14, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We would be like, all right, what's the next product feature? What are they going to do? What's the next partnership? But now we're trying to theorize all this bad stuff. But also the market just went down. Like the whole market crashed. So
Yeah.
it's not a Palantir thing at all from a stock price.
Right. It's a macro issue. I think that's the other thing. I mean, let's take it back. Let's take it back from the politics. Let's talk about the macro events right now that have caused Palantir and every company who's a growth company that's not 100% generating profits and net income, why they're taking a beating. Hell, Apple is taking a beating. Google is taking a beating, for God's sakes. Companies that are free cash flow up the wazoo. So yeah, I think right now we're at a point where growth stocks are taking a hit. No matter which company that you invest in, whether they're executing right or wrong, they're all getting hit. But here's the good thing, though. I think a lot of this stuff is algo. The algorithms are doing the trading, and they're doing this trading and selling things off. Maybe Palantir is on the retail side because it has such a large retail base. So a lot of people on the retail side are selling. The one thing I noticed while looking through a lot of Reddit, a lot of Twitter, just to gauge how retail was reacting, everyone said, bye, Palantir. I'm done. I'm selling out. I'm done out. You know what I say to that? No problem. I'll buy your shares happily from you. Because at the end of the day, I believe in this company, right? 1 or 2 bad quarters, especially ones where there was a macro level event that's causing it to go down. Dude, this is the perfect time to buy a company. Yeah, I know we're all getting tired of the buy the dip. But guess what? If you're an investor, this is perfect time to buy the dip, And if you're a speculator and you don't feel like you want to keep speculating in this company, hey, by all means, there's plenty of other companies that you can go speculate in. Natural gas.
Guys, the way I look at it is, see, there is no guarantee you or any one of us is going to make money in Palantir. It's our view that we will make money in Palantir. Okay, there is no guarantee of it. Okay, that's pretty much given to us. The way I see the situation is following in this market. See, we are investing in these companies because we believe that the disruption and innovation can bring a lot of growth. Okay, why? Like, for example, if you see today, there is a lot of disruption in supply chain. So what will happen? People will not wait for these disruptions to resolve. They will find some alternative out of it. They will find some new business model. They will find alternative products. That means that's a part of innovation and growth. Now, if you think innovation and growth is dead, that means you should be scared about that. Why my money is in these companies? If you believe that innovation and growth is actually going to increase value creation in the stock market and in your day-to-day life, then you need to think, okay, in that particular case, what are the companies who are going to impact me the most? And one of the frame you take it is, can this company first survive the bankruptcy? Okay, in that particular case, company with a lot of cash, with literally zero debt, at least is a good candidate that, yeah, it's not going under. Then you listen to their customers and what their customers are saying, that are their customers really finding help from their product? If their customers are finding help from their product, that's a good sign. Another thing is that sometimes, you can have a lot of advertisement and a lot of blah blah about something, but you saw what happened when the COVID hit. Vaccines and PPE needs to be distributed now. What was happening? Everybody was rushing back to Palantir. Oh, can you do this for us? Okay, can you even imagine? I mean, the UK buying Palantir in a normal situation? No. But when the NHS thing happened, they knew that, okay, we are going to be judged on our efficiency of distributing PPE and all the other supply chains critical to this crisis, and we don't care if there's a stigma comes with that. So the real value on the table is time to value. That means Palantir was seen by a lot of parties in government and in private that when they need to solution of high impact, and there was no time on the table, and that is the proposition. Now, what do you think? Like when we talk about like companies like creating competitive advantage over each other, and everybody is doing digital transformation. See, at this particular point, the moment a company cracks a digital competitive advantage, which is asymmetric over other companies, all the companies will follow what this company is doing. This is exactly what Netflix did earlier in the last decade, when everybody was thinking, dude, streaming is going to be a real thing. And they had this whole idea of streaming based on content and an algorithm by taking your feedback. And now everybody is doing that. So the question at the end of the day is, can Palantir create that kind of sentiment and value in some of the B2B companies? Because if it is done, buying Palantir is not a solution. It's must for many companies, because if they don't do it, their board will be asking them that why your margins are 20% and somebody has 40%. And at the end of the day, what CEO loves most, they love their own bonus and they love their own package. politics comes later, or they worry about politics when they retire from their corporate careers.
I think the best chat I've got all this entire time is Teal going to Trump party is like Frodo infiltrating Mordor. I love that. I love that. Who knows? Maybe that's what's happening.
Do you think the rate increases are going to affect Palantir as well, or like go down?
Nah, I don't think so. Palantir doesn't need to borrow any money. They got cash sitting in the bank. Their counterparties are companies that are trying to save money that they normally would have had to shell out, right? So right now, if your margins are being compressed, what are you going to do? You're going to hire more, or you're going to create you're going to buy a product that will help you from hiring more people, that saves you from hiring additional manpower, optimizes your supply chain, gets you into a point where you can actually better combat the rising interest rates that are out there. I think anyone right now in the corporate world not trying to at least understand digital transformation and who's the most superior product and helping adopt, they're behind the eight ball. And that's why I think a lot of these multinationals, like I'm talking about $1 billion plus revenue companies, are buying into Palantir. They're saying, hey, listen, we need this software. We need to get this thing tomorrow. So get on it.
See, you can talk about valuation in a lot of angles. I mean, valuation, like I said, it's a bit of perception on how you look, the views, and see, like I said, if you believe in the product, okay, you need to then, from that point of view, you need to bring the numbers up. At this particular point, when Palantir acquires a customer, okay, that's pretty much like at least $500,000, revenue in terms of weekly basis for a lot of these big clients. That's a lot of money, okay? So that's why the acquisition of customer is also not that straightforward for many of the clients as well. The second part is, see, the company is around $20 odd billion at this particular point. Okay, you look at the quality of some of the clients they have, and let's say, okay, they have done, what we know at this point for fact is that they did $1.5 billion of revenue. Okay, is their revenue going to increase? See what they said in the Q1 2021, we are going to increase our revenue by 30%. Have they done it? Yes, they have done it. They said we will invest more in sales, we will open more channels for go-to-market. Have they done it? Yes. Company has done exactly everything what they have done. Okay, SBC is something that is always a sore issue. But guys, people who invested in Palantir like me, they already knew this company was 17 years in private. The value was stagnant between 2014 to 2020. So there was always going to be a very big bill of SBC at some point of time. Okay. But has it changed the company's working? No, it hasn't changed the company working in a longer way. I mean, coincidentally, the same time the company SBC valuation has come with the growth market decline. So it looks like that stock has declined because of SBC. If that's true, then why some of other companies have declined 80% who are not having this kind of SBC valuation? I mean, there are a lot of companies with a lot of cash have declined in a similar amount without any SBC valuation of the same order. So stock has declined because of SBC valuation. Guys, that's not a right statement. Yes, it has an impact, okay, but all growth companies have that kind of impact. It's not entirely true, but it has been used as a FUD and as a motivation to actually increase attack against the company, in my opinion.
One thing I want to say, I'm looking at the chat and it says, disagree, the DC evaluation will be based on higher discount rates from higher interest rates. Reduces net present value of future cash flows. That's absolutely true. You are 100% right. If you're trying to do a DC evaluation and interest rates rise, the value of the company based on current growth rates definitely justifies a compression of the price, right? But here's what I'm saying. Because of interest rate rising, supply chain issues on top of it, your business, if it accelerates, okay, if you grow past what the current target is, that DCF model that you project out that, hey, this company is only going to grow at 30%, that goes out the window. You know, a lot of people use DCF to model what Tesla was going to be like in 2014, which is why Chano shorted the hell out of it. And where is he now? You know, these DCF models give you an idea of what a mature company is going to be like. Palantir is not a mature company it's right now in its growth phase. All right. It is growing. And I think right now with US commercial and European commercial they're still hitting the accelerator. They're getting faster and they're growing faster. And I think that's going to be seen in the next few years. And that right there will throw out any DCF model that currently exists. No one could have predicted the revenues that Tesla was generating in 2021, 2022, back in 2014, and use the same growth curves without realizing that there can be a point where there's an inflection right out of the blue where things just go crazy, and that's what I'm hoping for. And I don't know about you guys. What do you guys think about that?
Guys, two things on DCF. And I'm telling you because I spent time in mega capital project where I have to do a lot of DCF to raise capital from banks. And I spent time in a strategy consulting, and now I'm an advisor to a fund. So I know a thing or two about DCF. DCF works when you know the revenue streams and the boundary conditions. If you do not know the revenue streams and boundary condition, DCF is just an illusion. Okay. If you are using, for example, a lot of companies I review, I always use a discount rate of like 20%, but I have to create what the future revenues will look like. So if I'm already using 20% discount rate, that means I'm already expecting my discount rate sensitivity of 5% on here and there. That means 15 to 25%. My models already account for 2 to 3% interest rate. I'm not going to update my models for that because I already anticipated that can happen. DCF is useless if you cannot set the boundary conditions. Now, when you are looking at a company like Palantir, your DCF can only work if you know the right boundary condition and you can predict future better than a lot of other people. This is exactly what Kris was saying, that a lot of people fail in applying DCF model. DCF, see, that is the thing with the modeling. When you get so much involved in the modeling and the numbers you are putting that you think that Excel is the reality. No, Excel is not the reality. Company is the reality. The customers are the reality. So it's good to do it because it gives us anchoring. It gives us some basis. But you also need to understand that what disproves your analysis and modeling as well. That is as important as making a DCF model. Back to you guys.
I think we gotta end it there. I definitely gotta get out of here. 12 a.m. on the East Coast. But this was an interesting conversation. We went deep into some of the dirty parts of Palantir that no one wants to talk about. Look, I think we'll be fine. I'm always optimistic in my videos, even the bad stuff that's happening, because I think I believe in the tech. I think the tech.
Zubair, go check out Amit's conversation with Sebastian. That was great video to figure out what DCF was for Palantir, and he outlined it, what the growth trajectories were line by line, to say, hey, if it goes from here, this is what it'll be. If it goes from here, this is what it'll be. So I would say go to Amit's channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the one that's the interview with Sebastian. And I'm telling you, it'll open your eyes to what the possibilities for Palantir are. And it'll help you get some grounding too. So if you guys, anyone on this call, if you guys really want a great DCF model, I found that to be probably one of the best ones that to look at. So just not to plug you so hard on it, but I thought that was great, man. You and Sebastian really, that video really hit it on the head.
You know what's so crazy? Sebastian is texting me right now. He's in Paris. It's 5:45 a.m. Let me read what he says. We can send this video to him later. So he's because I've been going back and forth. He said, and maybe this is the last thing we can talk about. He said, this is legit keeping me up. It's 5:45 a.m. right now in Paris. I can't stop thinking about this. They are increasing their sales, but they're lowering their Q1 guidance for 30%, less than 30%. And he's like, he just texted me a bunch of stuff. Like, I just don't know why they're doing this. And he's saying also the macro economy, all that stuff. But Sachin, any thoughts on like why Q1 guidance was not as like significant as it should be quarter over quarter as it was last year?
See, my view is like there is a delay between the sales force injection and by the time the results come. In my view, I take that window as a 9 to 12 months. So that's
what Sebastian was saying as well. That might be an issue. Yeah.
So at this particular point, my understanding is for the next 2 quarters, the cost, like we saw, some of the expenses are going to be high because they're just inducting these teams now. And by the time I think we go to Q3, that should be where we start seeing some increased revenue. What I disagree with the Carp in journal is that if getting everything done and we are still at 30%, then I would say that their execution has issues. That's my personal view. Okay, at some point, I want to see that divergence on the higher side. See, this is what company does. I mean, how do we define generational companies? They deliver quarter on quarter, big daddy numbers, way above street estimates, way above their own guidance. This is how the monopolies are built. So at the end of the day, that's what I say. The question is always: is it going to be a good company or is it going to be a great company?
Yeah.
Right now, we have a lot of signs which says it is going to be a good company. Some of us believe it has the potential to be a great company, but we are waiting more signs to confirm that. So that's pretty much how I see Palantir at this particular point.
Yeah, same here. Same exact thing.
All right. Well, that's it for us this week. We will be back next Friday discussing all things Palantir, and you'll probably hear a bunch of Palantir updates this week. And yeah, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to Sachin and Kris on YouTube, and myself if you want to do that. And Twitter at Amit is Investing. Sachin's Twitter, I think it's probably in the description. And yeah, we'll see.
Me and Cyberfam are doing a interview with CodeStrap on Sunday. So I haven't put that out yet, but our discussion is not going to be political. It's going to be purely probably technical. I really want to get into the nitty gritty of the technology part, and so that's probably what I'm going to be focusing on with Cyberfam. We're going to get super technical. So if anyone here is super nerdy and wants to learn a little bit, and literally like pick up a laptop right next to you at the same time where you're gonna have to look things up, please join our stream on Sunday at 12 o'clock Eastern time.
That's gonna be good. I'm definitely tuning into that one. That's good. And my CodeStrap thing's coming tomorrow, so it'll be just like double on top of that. There's gonna be a lot of CodeStrap content this weekend, so that'll be really good stuff for the community.
I love that guy, man. I love him.
No, I'm actually connected with him. I mean, now because we both are like, we discuss a lot about Foundry for Builders, and I had a business strategy point. He had a technical point. I think that was a great discussion with him.
Yeah, check out Sachin. Sachin was really good. His interview with him as well.
Yeah, what I'm going to focus over the weekend is that I'm going to update my SWOT analysis for Palantir, because few things have changed. Few new risks have appeared. Several risks have actually subsided. So I need to update my SWOT on the basis of that. One thing I will also make everyone clear that, guys, it's an investment. It can go wrong. There is no guarantee here. Okay, tomorrow something happens in the company. I mean, we don't know. We are sitting from outside. We are trying to perceive as best as we could, and we're trying to share the logic and reasoning why we think like this. We are not defending Palantir in front of everyone. I mean, tomorrow, if things change and facts change, I wouldn't mind to criticize and condemn, even to short Palantir if that's what it will be tomorrow. We need to believe in facts. You need to work out your own logic on this. You need to have that things can go really bad. Can you manage your trade and investment? If you are high on margins and you are really doing some funky stuff on this, guys, you will burn your hands. So please, whatever you do, please do it responsibly. There is no guarantee when we will be out of it. There is no guarantee at this particular point to say what will be the bottom, and there is no guarantee at this point what will be the year-end price. The only thing we know is that they have done revenue 40% from year on year. They have given a good guidance, and in terms of execution and performance, a lot of their numbers are improving. If that matters to you, make an informed decision about it. Okay, I'll see you guys
One
later.
guarantee you can get from me is you'll get a Palantir video at least every week, or maybe 5.
You'll always get the NBA mumbo jumbo from Sachin, like SWOT analysis. I completely forgot what SWOT. What's it? Strength, weaknesses, opportunities,
and threats.
I did it in business school. I thought it was pointless. I was like, why the fuck?
Dude, I did Lean Sigma 6. Man, trying to adopt the Japanese model in America. That shit don't work.
But when you do it, when it's relevant, like what he's saying is updating the threats, that's when it becomes actually important.
Yeah.
See, it doesn't work. See, at the end of the day, frameworks are useless if you cannot get them right. Like, for example, we discussed this case now, that why DCS failed for Tesla, because everybody was looking, a company is profitable because of EV credits. But company was profitable because of EV credits because they were putting all of their revenue back in business, and somebody keep paying them free money. And then they were putting some of those free money back in business and showing some of that free money as earnings. The model in my head was, Volkswagen is selling a car in Europe and they are paying money to Tesla. I mean, this is the best business model. And Tesla is using that money to build new factory that will give them perpetual revenue. So until and unless there is a better framing around frameworks, they are pretty much useless.
I think me and Amit checked out like about 2 minutes ago.
Sachin is everyone's dad. Yeah, literally, bro.
Yeah.
No, but what he's saying is right. It's like framing the arguments make a lot of more sense for this. I think it's just a question of now that earnings have come out and these new threats have emerged, what is the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats for Palantir? I mean, these are important conversations to ultimately have, and they dive into political conversations sometimes.
That's right.
That's why we love covering this company, because there's imagine in 5 years, just imagine, we're up 10 times, it's $150, and we were having these conversations just 5 years back. Like, it'll be good to see that happen if it plays out, and if it doesn't, then we had something to do.
There's this guy on all of our chats. His name is Doom Shallot. I just want to give him.
How is this
to the moon?
Yo, every time,
every video,
he commented like something normal, and I was so surprised. I was like, I thought he was a robot or something. I was like,
yeah, yep. All right. Well, this was great. I had a great time. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.
Good night. We'll see you next week.
Stay safe. See you guys later. Bye.